Hi, and welcome along to AFTV. We've got a very special guest here today. It's Tim Peyton from the AST. Great to have you on again, Tim.
Great to be here. I remember our last time was just at the debacle of the Super League.
Yes, the debacle of the Super League, which of course that all fell apart in the end. Lots of protests, etc., etc. And I remember you saying to me at the time, I asked you and I said, what is it we can do as fans really to show these owners that we're very unhappy with what's going on at the moment, particularly obviously in our case, our owners. And you said to me, all we can do at this moment in time is keep the pressure on. So when I saw that last week, the owners put out this statement saying that they'd identified various groups and that they were now going to sit down with these various groups, and the AST was one of those groups, and talk to you guys about how they improve things, how we improve, after this whole the Super League debacle and the many other problems that we've had around the club. At first, when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, this is a great thing that they're going to sit down with groups like yours. But then I saw your group's response to that, which almost sort of suggested like, well, hold on, you haven't even consulted us on this. And I wanted to catch up with you just to get some more sort of details around this. What is happening with this, with the club reaching out to your group?
Well, lots of talks have taken place since that Super League and since things had to change. And we might come on to talking to the government and the Tracy Crouch review. But if I concentrate on Arsenal now, we have had some discussions with them, as have others, and they have put forward some proposals for change, and they're welcome, they're incremental. They're going to make the fans forum a little bit more formal. They're going to have some of the positions to the fans forum. If you're the gold member representative, red member, silver away, you will be elected by your cohort, which I think is a good thing because that only brings a bit more accountability, in a sense, profile to the role, and more might get done. And they've also proposed a kind of talking shop, like to take half a fans forum, and 2 times a year it will get to meet with the Arsenal board. Now, again, that's better than what we had before. But there's a really key question for all of this, to me, Robbie, and to the AST, which is anything they're proposing, would this have stopped the Super League? That's the type of question we've got to ask. How are we as Arsenal fans being given a real say in the future of these significant issues about our club? And the answer is it wouldn't. There's nothing in these proposals. And we went to Arsenal, we felt, with some really good ideas, replicating what's going on at other clubs, replicating what we've been talking about. So we said, give us the right to buy shares again. That makes us custodians. That gives us an annual general meeting. That gives us access to the report and accounts. And you as directors have a duty to us. So let us buy shares again. We said, put some independent non-executive directors on the Arsenal board. People with good experience who would add independent thinking, but crucially, who would be able to stand up on decisions like the Super League and say, have you asked the fans? Is this right for Arsenal? How is this a custodianship thing? It's every single listed company in this country now has a legal requirement to have independent non-executive directors. It's not a big ask, but again, the Kroenke is like, no, we don't want anyone here. We know what we're doing. We own the club privately, not interested in any of this. We also asked about a golden share, the idea that there are certain things at the club, the colours, the badge, playing in Islington, playing in competitions that are so important that the supporters should have a right to have a say in those. Again, from Arsenal, no, not interested. We run the club. We might talk to you about these things in a forum, but you're not getting more involved. And also, we just wanted much better engagement. You've seen Liverpool, Spirit of Shankly, have been given a formal role to be the consulted body, and they're going to be written into the Articles of Association of the club. Spurs are going to have a supporter elected director on the board. Chelsea are going to have 3 supporters able to reserve and attend board meetings. So Arsenal's offer really, when you look at it compared to the change that was needed and what's going on elsewhere, is, I think we described it as very disappointing. And that's our position. We will, of course, work with them in the forums they've offered and try and improve things, but we can't say that they have done anything structural or significant to address the failings.
I was going to say, because I remember like the Glazers at Man United, and we know that they've been very vociferous, their fans, against the Glazers, but even some of their fans came out of some of those meetings and were saying, well, you know what? All right, we're not going to get carried away, but it's quite encouraging.
Well, at
the things that they're proposing.
Exactly. Well, at Manchester United, I didn't mention them, the Glazers, and there's still a way to go, but the Glazers have talked about introducing a process where Manchester United supporters can buy shares, and they want to buy ordinary shares, which, like the Glazers own, which means you get the voting rights and the custodianship power. Now, it's only a beginning, but the Glazers sat down and were prepared to talk about that. Arsenal, the Kroenke is, no, we're not even talking about that. We took it private. We don't like having AGMs. We don't like accountability. We want to run it privately. Here's a kind of take it or leave it offer that we'll talk to you a bit more, and that's it.
So, as I was going to say, like with the United one, everybody seems to be slightly happy with what's been pushed out to them, and, are looking forward to sitting down. But with what you're saying there, they're not really, it's a lip service, isn't it? They're not really offering anything.
Arsenal aren't offering anything here. As I say, Robbie, I've got a real simple test here. What in these proposals would have stopped the Super League? How is it giving supporters a guaranteed voice and say on things that affect our club? No one thinks it might be fun, but no one thinks supporters should sit on the board and decide whether or not we buy Ramsdale as goalkeeper next week. Come on, it's not the sort of thing we're talking about, and they kind of imply that about us. What we care about is the sustainability of our club and football, that the competitions flourish, that the Premier League has got competitive balance so the matches are worth watching, that we don't go into a closed European Super League, that we don't suddenly end up playing home matches in Jakarta because there's been a bigger offer. We know what it means to be custodians, and they're just not interested in any of that agenda at all and have paid lip service to it. But there is some good news, and it's almost breaking as we talk, which is the other thing the Arsenal Supporters Trust did was step up, giving written evidence to a government review led by a member of parliament called Tracy Crouch, mobilising our membership to fill in a survey, showing the results, the overwhelming support for buying shares, independent directors, supporter representatives. And today, Tracy Crouch wrote to the government with her initial findings, and she's agreed with a lot of what we're saying. She wants an independent regulator. She wants to work up the golden share idea. She thinks more financial controls are needed and sharing of revenue. She has really listened. That is a report that you can see the heartbeat of fans' views are in it. And now there's 3 more months of her doing detailed proposals to put to the government and possible legislation. And it's a real fillip to all Arsenal fans, to all football fans who've responded and campaigned and protested. I think finally we might be getting somewhere. Yeah,
I know. I mean, just before we had this meeting, I actually was reading through it because it's a very long letter.
7 pages.
And I read through it, and I was like, because I also was asked about a few things in it by Tracy Crouch, and also sort of been involved with Gary Neville, where he's been, along with a load of other fans, he's got involved, where what he's trying to do is ask for an independent regulator. And she's saying in there, football needs an independent regulator. And a lot of the things that you just described, she describes those as well. She says, basically fans, these owners are just custodians of the clubs, but they don't treat it like they're custodians. She even mentions things like the badges and the colours of the club. And I was very impressed with what she's written there, and hopefully that is where they're going to be forced into change. Well,
the way it will happen is her report is to the Prime Minister, and he has to decide whether or not to legislate. But it's really powerful, and as you referred to, Gary Neville and a group of high-profile football people and channels like yourself, which have such a big reach, we all must just keep up the pressure now. I mean, a lot of that letter, the Arsenal Supporters Trust provided 12 pages of evidence to Tracy Crouch. Wow. It's on our website for everyone that wants to read it. Yeah. And you can see a lot of it coming back in the letter that she's written, because she is listening, and she's put a survey out herself. And you'll see over the next few weeks, the AST will do more work and ask people to continue writing to the government and her, because there's still a long way to go to get the change to come in. But it is really encouraging. But there's someone there that is saying, hang on, you know, you Arsenal fans are what that club is, not the Kroenkes. They're the owners at the moment. I need to work with government to put in place structures that empower you as fans to look after your clubs for their long-term future. That's really encouraging news.
With the Kroenkes, you know, we know that there's been this offer made to them by Daniel Ek, and before that, you know, it's Usmanov, and sometimes I'm kind of baffled. But what do they want from? I'd love to be able to sit down with them one day, or you sit down with them, or anyone, and just say, what really do you want? What's your aim? And don't just tell me you're here to win trophies. What is it you want? I mean, what do you think they want?
Well, they're investors.
They don't want to sell it. They don't want to.
They're investors, Robbie. So what they want and what they believe they can see is revenue growth. Now, of course, they made their move big time with the Super League, because the whole idea of the Super League with the closed league is you get guaranteed revenues every year. You know you won't get relegated, so you only have to spend a proportion of those revenues on players, and you take the profit out. It's the franchise model that works in America. And, you know, it may suit the American market and fans very well, but it's complete anathema to us. We don't even need to talk about why the idea that Arsenal qualify for competition ahead of Leicester when we finish below them in the season just can't work. It goes against the whole sense of watching the Premier League and English football, fair play, and you know, you win a game in order to progress. But that's what they want, Robbie. They're investors.
But they know that they're not going to get that now, Tim, aren't they?
When Stan Kroenke was talking to me, and this is a long, long time ago because he stopped talking to me, one of the only things he sort of said of any resonance was no one ever sold a franchise for less than they paid of it. And the other thing he said was, wait till Africa gets satellite broadband, because of course what he was viewing was more subscriptions. And you know, and we saw it, legacy fan versus kind of this idea that they'll sell globally. Although I think we got quite a backlash from a lot of global fans saying, well, the reason we've fallen in love with Arsenal because we quite like how it is, and English football and the structures. And you know, there's something else that I'll say that I think is really good. We are 3 weeks away from a really exciting game, which is Arsenal visiting Brentford. Yeah, it's a wonderful game. Many of us that are Londoners and getting their first shots. That's the 50th professional team in English football that will play in the Premier League since the Premier League's existed. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that what it's about? That you go up, you go down. You know, it's not great for Arsenal that they're not in Europe next year, but it is good in the sense that it shows.
That's what we love about the game.
You've got to perform to get the result, and it's always changing. And what you'll see. But for the Kroenkes, they're investors in something that wants to make money, but I think they want to make asset growth. You know, they want to look at the value going up because the media rights are going up. Now, potentially, the efforts of Tracy Crouch and at the Premier League, where the other clubs are sort of restricting the rule book, might mean that they've got a lot less opportunity to do that in the years ahead. But I absolutely make you one prediction. If they are going to sell, they'll do it in 3 years' time. To do it now would be seen to be running away. And even if they felt disenfranchised and that their big play had been blocked and they hadn't got away with it, I would be astounded unless someone came up with extraordinary money. They won't go in the short term because that would hurt the pride too much.
So you think it's just a pride thing? Because as I said, they're not going to get the Super League now with what Tracy Crouch is proposing. All right, even if all of that doesn't come in, some of it's coming. Some of it's coming. They did a lot of damage with that Super League thing, and some of that stuff that she's proposing is going to come in. So their dreams of this sort of closed shop, making money year in, year out, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to spend a lot of money to get us back in regular top 4 contention. I guess it's pride. That's an expensive pride, but they got it, I guess.
At the end of the day, money always talks, and you know, so you can't rule out an extraordinary bid. But if someone, part of the problem we've got here, Robbie, which is really why the Tracy Crouch work is so important, is, you know, some fans would probably celebrate it, but you know, if Arsenal got sold to the Saudi Arabian royal family, to me, that would be frying pan to fire. You know, there are certain types of ownership model which I don't think are right for our football club. I do think self-sustainability, I do think some regard for like human rights and who you're owned by and that kind of thing is important. And, you know, which means that, you know, the sort of group that I would want to own Arsenal now would be self-sustainable, but that means they'd only be able to pay the Kroenkes, you know, a realistic price, which I don't think they'd accept at the moment. We'll have to see what happens, but I think it's an exciting period because we'll have to see where the Tracy Crouch and the government review goes. They will make big decisions in October, and then the year after that will be for the government to implement something. But at least we've got something there, and you know, I don't think Gary Neville's going to go anywhere, is it? I saw he was out today messaging about it, and everybody else. I think we've got a real chance for some change now, and everything the AST have said over the last 3 months. When I told you, I think outside the Emirates, we've got to keep fighting. But, and I probably mentioned then, you know, who would have thought that in the last 10 years, I've spent more time talking to Boris Johnson about Arsenal than Stan Kroenke. But that's true, because I was invited to that meeting in Downing Street, and I led off an exchange with him about setting up a review, and he said he was thinking of doing that and appointing Tracy Crouch. And I've known Tracy a little bit from her work in football and as an MP, and I was like, that would be fantastic. She gets us. She's a season ticket holder. She's a football coach, and it's come through in her work. But I really do think that, in a way, what they did was so bad that they've actually given us the opportunity to get our club back in a different way.
Well, listen, I want to commend you and everybody at the AST. You guys do some great work. You've been doing it continually over the years. Ever since I've known you, you guys have been campaigning. And I know sometimes groups like yours don't get the respect they deserve because people will be like, oh yeah, but what are they doing? And they don't realize how difficult it is to get through to, like, say, the Kroenkes and to be continually doing these meetings, etc., when it sometimes will appear like there's no chance of getting anything done. So I really think a lot of what we're seeing happening down to groups like yours groups and also at other clubs as well. So I want to commend you guys for that and just keep doing what you're doing. It's very, very important work what you guys are doing, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the platform.
No worries. Take care. And yeah, we you know what? We'll come back to you. Now that this thing is starting to roll, we're going to keep coming back to you, Tim, and getting updates on how things are going.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just by the way, just before you go there, if anybody wants to get more information, you said you had like some stuff on your website regarding some of the things that have happened. Where can they find that?
Yeah, go to the website, arsenaltrust.org. Have a good look around. You'll find the submissions. You'll find the government review. You'll find how to join if you think it's something you might want to be a part of. arsenaltrust.org.
Okay. Tim, thank you very much.
Thank you.